Yeah, actually, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, so is it looking at me now?
No.
Okay.
But we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, we're going to get started. Let me just do this. So I just want to let you guys know what this is about and who Kephra. I'm saying it right, Kephra?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, who Kephra is. So when I was in Florida, I went to, it's just amazing how, like Jonathan, as you guys have heard him talk, he loves a network. You know how much I hate it. So I'm like, okay, Luanda, just pretend like you're Jonathan. Literally, I'm thinking like that. And you start networking and start talking to people. But I'm at this event in Florida. It was the Black Business Network, and it was all about just how to uplift our community, Black businesses. And so while I'm there, one of the things, they talked about everything. They talked about Black Guns Matter. They talked about farming. They talked about real estate, like Jay Morrison. For those of you who know him, he was there. He was one of the speakers. Those of you who know Riza Islam, so he was there. He was one of the speakers. They talked about vaccine. They talked about everything. They talked about education.
This was in Florida?
This was in Florida, yeah. It's I forgot what it was called. It was the Black Business something. I can send you their because they do it every year. Like the next one is going to be in North Carolina in October, or November. So it's like hundreds of people are there. So we're in Florida, hundreds of people are there. Black, it's all Black, and so it's kind of nice because everybody's kind of like entrepreneur. They want to see our Black people move up, and it's just very pro-Black. And they stand up and they say, Black first, be one first, Black first. It's like this whole Black power kind of thing. So it was fun. So while I was there, I kept sitting next to these two doctors. One was a cardiologist, one was a pediatrician, and I was talking to him, and he was a vegan, and we were in some session about we were in a couple different sessions, and somehow we were talking about food, and so I told him I was from DC area. He goes, he says there's an organic and a vegan place. He said there's a vegan place in DC, and it's raw food. And I was like, oh, really? I was telling him how, my experience with raw food. So that's how I heard about it, because there was only two. And so I looked him up online. He had given me Kephra's information. So I looked it up. So I was telling Justin about it. And I said, yeah, Jay, the pictures look really good. I'm just going to go ahead and try it. And so I didn't want to do anything for Thanksgiving. And so he had this, Kephra on his website, had this like whole Thanksgiving meal package. None of it's meat because Petra's vegan. And juice. So we ordered, this raw food, and it was delivered. It came delivered like the day before Thanksgiving. We put it in the refrigerator. And I just remember looking at it going, this does look weird, Jay. He's like, I know, right? And we're both looking at it going, well, I didn't spend this money for this. I'm going to have to eat it. So, I take it, I make my plate, and I put it all pretty, and then I ordered the juice, and I even ordered dessert, and none of it had, milk or sugar products or none of that. And so I'm sitting down, I bless my food, I'm like, Lord, please let this stuff taste good, because we don't got enough for Thanksgiving. I didn't go to nobody's house. John didn't send no invite, or maybe he did. And I was like, no, I'm going to stand on my hair. I said, well, I don't have enough for Thanksgiving. And so I was eating the food. I was like, oh my goodness, this is so freaking good. I'm like, Dad, how do you make raw food taste like this? And so Justin's like, Mommy, how is it? Because he wanted to know how it was first. I said, Jay, it's good. I said, get yourself a plate. I said, it's really good. He goes, is it? So he goes, so he's eating the food, and he says, oh my gosh. He said, this is so good. I said, this is like the best Thanksgiving meal I've ever had. And it was just so flavorful. And I just could not imagine that you could do that with raw food, because when I tasted raw food, and I went to this place for 3 weeks in San Diego, well, they were white people. And their idea of raw food is, there's no flavor to it. And so you're like dying and you're like, this is the way life is going to be. And so I was like, and so they said after the end of that time, they're like, okay, who's going to do this? And I was like, I'm just letting y'all know right now, I'm not going to be a raw food person, but I will be incorporated into my diet. Because I'm thinking, who can enjoy food? Black people, and when our melanated, the melanin that we have a heightened sense of flavor. So that's why when we taste food that's bland, it's because of the melanin in us. We have a heightened sense of awareness about a lot of things. That's how God created us. And so anyway, I just thought it was delicious. I told a number of people about Kephra's, and then I was getting ready to place an order, and he answers the phone. He's like, yeah, I closed down my shop. I'm like, really? I was like, what do you mean you closed down your shop? He goes, I'm relocating, da da da. And I was like, well, crap. So what am I supposed to do? Starve? And I did say that we were on the phone, and he didn't know me, and he goes, well, have you heard of a fast? I was like, seriously? I said, well, crap, man. I've never had food taste like this. So we just started a conversation, and the conversation was just about healthy eating, and I was talking about how I wish I could eat like this on a regular basis, because when you look at our people, and I look at myself personally, I know that looking at me, I'm not healthy. I know that even though I don't eat sugars, as you guys know, but there's other things that I eat, I know that I'm not healthy. I can feel it, and I can see it. And so I said to Kephra, as we were talking, I said, it would be really interesting. I said, how could we do something that could revamp the way our community thinks? I was hoping Eric was going to be here, and he said he wanted to. But how can we revamp the way our community thinks about food? Can we start to incorporate much more healthier things? Because as Black people, all we are is unhealthy, and all we do is get sicker and sicker, and we get a disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, hypertension, heart disease, cancer, and we get all these diseases, and so much of it is related to the food or stress, nothing else, things that we actually can control. So I said, well, before we do something, I said, I don't even know if we can do something with the community, Kephra. I said, because, you've been in this for years. This is a natural thing for you. I said, but, our people would be like, man, they don't got no fried chicken. They don't got no buffalo wings or something. And I said, before we can even think about that, let's see how it goes with the staff. And let the staff, why don't you do your presentation with the staff and bring your food, and then we could, we're going to talk behind your back, and it'll be probably Brittany, and she'll say, I don't know, I can eat that, but she may not, but she's the most fussiest person. Brittany will look at something and will not want to try it. So I'm just saying. But anyway, so that's who Kephra is, and that's why he's here today. And Kephra was telling me that he was working on, I think you're almost done, or you're working on your PhD in something, and then I'm going to let you just pick it up.
Okay. Well, thank you. I just want to really just take a moment to really thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity. It's been a lot that I've been going through the last few years with business, with my own personal life. So, really getting an opportunity to do this, especially everything that we all know that's going on in the world. One of the things that's been taken from us is this human interaction.
Mm-hmm, right.
And we can't, we can never take these things for granted. I mean, it just feels so good to be in this room. Nobody's wearing a mask. It's, it gave you a hug. It's like that's healing, and that's been on trial, and it's a lot of fear, and we have to understand that it's a lot of deception, and I'll just leave that there. But as far as myself, I'll just fill in the blanks. Again, I'm glad you retold that story. When I heard it over the phone, I was like, wow. I mean, for nobody to have tried my stuff and in order on Thanksgiving, no less.
That was expensive.
Right.
That was the big thing.
Yeah, it was pricey, and to take a chance. I mean, that just shows. It shows a lot, and then to obviously really enjoy it. I'm really humbled and thankful. And then, like I said, for this opportunity. So, I haven't been. Right now I've scaled my business down. I've been kind of fulfilling juice cleanse orders. That's been like the kind of but really, I really just wanted to share just my overall story. Going back to just being a teenager, I've always been interested in health. I wasn't like a super jock. I played basketball and, was really dedicated into getting the most out of myself. So, once I realized the connection between that and eating, I immediately stopped eating meat. this is like me, 17, 18 years old. So this is in the late 80s. I was born in 72. So then going on to college and just fine tuning. And probably my earliest influence on doing the raw food was Dick Gregory. The late great Dick Gregory. He had come to my school at that time and talked about just eating fruit, and I was just like, it sounded, as crazy as it sounded, it spoke to me. And I immediately started, and I'm like 18, 19 years old, and I'm like, all right, I'm doing it. And I remember, and I don't write about this story, but that moment, because I can remember just eating fruit for like maybe a week at a time before I'm like, okay, I'm starving now, I've got to eat something. But my senses were so heightened, my sense of smell especially. I could literally smell the restaurant down the street, because it was just like, still being a teenager essentially, just having that youthful energy, but then, not clogging it up with heavy food, starchy food, fried food, and then I can even remember, again, my girlfriend at the time. I remember she had gotten, she had a lot of congestion and sickness, and we were always, we were very close and physically close, and all my stuff was as clear as can be, and right then and there, because one of the things at least in the raw food service is like, you don't catch a cold, you eat one. So again, if we can bring that to today, that still holds true. Our whole world has been turned upside down for this fact that there's some entity out there that can penetrate your body from whoever, wherever, and call it and wreak havoc, versus like taking the personal accountability. It's not just from what who I came in contact with, but it's been my diet, my lifestyle, all of the pollution, radiation, all these things have a contributing factor. So I'm gonna get into a little of those things, but fast forwarding, I ended up transferring into Howard University, which brought me here to DC. This was in the mid 90s, and actually I was an engineering major. Actually completed my master's coursework in that. So I stayed in school because I knew I wasn't cut out really for the 9 to 5, or at least that wasn't my desire to do the 9 to 5. Actually, my desire was to get a PhD in engineering at the time, but going through my master's, I realized I didn't want, it just was something about it that it just didn't speak to me. And so I started, really my first and last, I did take a job at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in Rockville. And maybe worked there for a few months. My first wife at the time, she was pregnant, and we had a child, and I was doing my thing on the side, and I was actually ended up making more money doing that, and which allowed me to walk away from the job and just stay home. We had my daughter. This was she's gonna turn 18 this year, so that was 18 years ago. And then ever since then, people started to know me, as raw food person. I started doing classes, and it just kind of slowly built from there 18 years ago. I took this on as a lifestyle, obviously, before that. But then, and then I started doing retreats. Been to Jamaica at least over 20 times, retreats there, Brazil, Panama, Dominica, which is not Dominican Republic. The island of Dominica is a very pristine island. There's no fast food restaurants there, so that was really a special place, especially to host the retreat. So I've been doing this work in 2012, essentially, end of 2011, 2012. That's when I started my shop on 8th Street. Kephra's Raw Food Juice Bar. Was essentially there for almost 10 years. I got evicted pre-pandemic. There's a whole big story with that. Then I worked out at Tastemakers for a year, and now I got some opportunities in front of me. But right now, just working on a low level, fulfilling, juice cleanses. So that's pretty much, my story as far as, me being here in DC, with the community.
So you're working on your PhD in what?
Oh yes. So thank you. So last year, I wasn't looking for it. There's a doctor that I follow whose views on COVID and basically it's a lot of what I agree with. He was one of the first doctors that I was able to discover to link COVID symptoms with 5G radiation. So I just read a lot of his work, and I started looking at his background and saw, his training, and I stumbled upon it at university. And so, so when I looked at it, it was right in sync with all, a lot of my beliefs and ideals about health and etc. And it was affordable. I called him up, and then I enrolled maybe a month later. So basically, the program is naturopathic or natural orthopathic medicine, nutrition. So basically, it's it comes from natural hygiene. The natural hygiene movement was a movement. Actually, the natural hygiene movement started here in this country, in the U.S., in the early 1800s. It's the probably the first, definitely the oldest health or alternative health movement here in this country. Actually, pre-Civil War, they have more natural hygienic centers than actual allopathic.
So what does natural hygiene mean?
Yeah, so natural hygiene, again, it was a coined term back then. Basically, it's hygiene, because you got to think, back in the 1800s, it was like my mother used to say, boy, you need to get out of that night air. I don't know if you heard that the night air, as if, again, there was a lot of superstitions about the night air, the sun, even water. Again, these were like common beliefs that these things were a danger to you. So hygiene became like, okay, yes, water is good for you. Sunlight is good for you. The night air is good for you. Fresh air. They would literally, in Europe and even here, like literally, like not have windows and not get out. Afraid of, again, not understanding what true health was. And even their techniques was like, there was something called bleeders. Where they would try to bleed out a sickness. Again, this is at the root of allopathic medicine. So we look at natural hygiene, it was like the total antithesis, to the point where, especially with the medication, so the early practitioners were practitioners who looked to change your diet, put you on a fast, get out in the sun, get some fresh air, get out in nature, natural hygiene.
Okay, gotcha.
You know?
Okay.
And then water also became a part of it too, especially with the fasting. So, you know, there was a whole thing called hydrotherapy, you know, and that came out of Europe, where it was like basically everything was a water cure, from just water fasting or just bathing in water. I mean, people didn't bathe. I mean, so you know, the term natural hygiene sort of originated as like, okay, this is what most people believe and what they're doing, and this is what we're preaching. So you can see how it was very easy for people to, you know, sort of convert. And again, like I said, pre-Civil War. Now, Civil War, a lot of those centers got destroyed. But back then, in the early, you know, in the mid-1800s, I mean, you had just as many people following this type of consciousness versus like just looking to, you know, drugs and surgery and medication, you know. And so basically the tradition has sort of lived on, and you know, I'm happy to be, you know, to learning. I mean, I've been practicing the lifestyle, and now it's just giving me, you know, sort of, I guess, a validation of sorts, you know, to be able to, you know, officially study it and to, you know, get an official certification, you know, in this tradition and knowledge, you know. So yeah. So that's what, and I hope to be complete. I'm more than halfway through it. Again, a lot of what I've learned is, again, what I've already been living. You know, pretty much all of healing, because that's the thing. And I'll start there. Is like the body is self-healing. Even with herbs and things like that, pretty much there's nothing outside of us that can basically create health. You know, we're always looking for, you know, we live in a consumer world, so it's like, or I should say a consumer consciousness, where it's like, oh, what can I take to remedy this? What can I take to remedy that? When the answer is, really you need to set the stage for your body to do it itself. Because essentially, it's going to be the body. Whether you take the drugs or the herbs or the whatever you do, it's still going to be the body that does it. It's just that basically all those other things can help cover symptoms. And sometimes, you know, these things also can stimulate or overstimulate, which is weakening your body in the long run. It may, again, help to cover the symptoms. I mean, that's especially what drugs do. You know, when anyone goes to the hospital, you know, because somebody's feeling pain, obviously, they're going to put you on some kind of pain meds. So that you can continue to eat. Because you can't be in pain and be hungry.
Mm-hmm. Right.
When you're in pain, your appetite goes away. And that's how the body, that's the intelligent design, the godlike design. The body is saying, like, look, please give me a rest. And when you and when you just rest, and you know, one of the greatest things to do is to actually, you know, do a bath soak. Again, just hit that water, and that can be the pain medication. You know, that allow your body to sort of just rest, relax, and whatever it may be. So, you know, and then also, you know, with natural hygiene, they was advocates of raw food. So with raw food, okay, so, you know, I brought some food today. You know, I hope that everyone tries it.
Do you want us to get some now or later? I'm just wondering how do you want to do that?
Yeah, well, I guess when we take questions when I finish, that'll be a good break. But yeah, with the raw food. So raw food, right? So, I mean, obviously you're not applying any fire, any type of baking or heat, you know. So essentially for me, when I first, you know, took this on as a lifestyle, I mean, it was really simple. I could make food, like just like maybe most people, but I wasn't a chef. I didn't go to chef school or anything like that. So initially it was like fruits and salads, you know, because like I said, back when I heard, you know, Dick Gregory talk about, you know, because he actually opened up the Bible, and in 129 it's like man should eat for his meat, fruit, and herbs. Okay, so I mean, if anyone's hungry, yeah, feel free to go ahead and, you know, I didn't bring any plates or utensils or anything like that, and I brought some juices, you know, if y'all want to share the juices and get cooked, but, you know, so essentially it was fruits and salads, and after like 6 months of that, I'm like, okay, you know, you can make a raw pizza. You know, I was hearing these things like, you could do this, you could do that. So probably for the next 6 months after that, I was on a mission to learn how to do all these things. You know, I got a food dehydrator. I had gotten a Vitamix blender. I had gotten another piece of equipment that allows you to do some of these things. So I went and bought all of this equipment, and I put it to use. I was literally any recipe. I mean, this is pre-YouTube days. This is almost pre-internet. So information wasn't, you know, I had to go old school, books, videos. I mean, it was VHS still, you know. So whatever I could get my hands on, you know, I pretty much like any recipe book I would do, like literally all the recipes. And that's how the classes and things started. I started sharing with people what I was doing. But essentially, from a health perspective, it was like, okay, well, why are you doing this? Because, I mean, that's always the biggest question. It's like, you know, what is your purpose? For anything, what purpose are you doing this for? So, you know, for me, at least from a health perspective, you got, you know, again, basically wanting to get the most out of my body. You know, so a lot of people get into this because, you know, because they fall ill and they want to go the alternative route. They don't want to resort to drugs and surgery. All right, so they want to say, all right, let me take my health into my own hands. You know, for me, it was like at that time. I mean, this is late 90s, early 2000s. You know, it was somewhat of a movement where people were converting to this diet, and you know, you had terms like superfoods. You know, so it wasn't like just raw foods. It was like foods that had super nutrition. You know, like the one, you know, early at that time was like goji berries, for example. You know, there's a legendary Chinese Qigong master who apparently lived to 252. Is documented. His name, I believe, is Lee. I mean, y'all can Google it. He'll come up. So, you know, apparently goji berries is one of the things he ate every day. And then, you know, you had like...
How you spell that?
His name?
Goji berries.
Oh, Goji. Yeah, so you know, you can find these things. They usually come... Actually, you can go to Chinatown and get goji berries, or you can go in health food stores. Yeah, you know, so you was, you know, so it was a movement. I was like part of this movement that was really trying to see the human potential. I mean, you would hear stories like, yeah, you know, somebody eating raw, they could just run a marathon without training, or I mean, it kind of, you know, embellishing. You know, I mean, yes, you will have more energy and you will be healthier for sure. And, you know, because really the reason is like, you know, people talk about always drinking water, right? How much water are you drinking? But the thing is that I flip it and say, well, how much water are you eating? you know, really all of our food should have water. You know, and that's really what it's about. Like, yeah, you can drink a lot of water and that's great, but really in nature, especially if we look to our natural primates that have similar digestive system as us, they don't drink that much water. You know, they're fruitarian. You know, so they're eating their water. Yeah, they drink a little water here and there, but they don't have to drink as much water because they're pretty much just eating fruits. They're eating green leaves. They're eating some nuts, and you know, they may eat like stuff like ants or things like that. But for the most part,
you say ants.
Yeah, ants.
Okay.
Yeah, ants, maybe other insects or whatever. But for the most part, most of it is fruit. So we are fruit eaters. I mean, that just won't change. You know, even thinking about, you know, because I mean, you got people making cases for like eating meat. And one of the things that I say about meat, and you know, when I say meat, I put that, you know, I put that, you know, I create an umbrella and say meat, milk, or anything from an animal, cheese. The thing is this, is that when you eat meat, you know, and under that umbrella, nutrition-wise, bite for bite, that meat has way more nutrition than any fruit or vegetable. Okay? So if you're eating, you know, especially like, you know, I'm not talking about like commercial, you know, from cow, chicken. No, I'm talking about like even like, you know, things like bison, wild caught fish, deer, you know, things that actually human beings, if you're going to eat meat, you should eat.
Bison, deer, fish, wild caught fish.
Right. So, but see, here's the catch, is that, you know, eating, you know, folks who do eat primarily meat have shown to not live as long. I mean, they can eat, you know, again, no processed food, very, you know, even raw. You know, they can eat these, and because the thing is like they should, you know, we should never put any fire to, no matter what your diet is. But the thing is like eating that, because again, the nutrition is too dense. It's too dense. So
When you say too dense, what do you mean?
Well, again, it's well, too dense in the sense that it's going to shorten your lifespan. So the thing is that a lot of the people who do go turn to, you know, diets like the keto diet or the paleo or whatever it is, you know, and thinking they're healthy, they will get cancer at a relatively young age. Because even though they may feel, you know, and that's why I say too, you know, the nutrition is almost too dense, is because they will feel the good effects of that. But the thing is like they're accelerating their life cycle. You know, because the thing is like the food is too dense. We're not meant to break those foods down. I mean, it'd be one thing if you ate it like once every 6 months. You know, or even once a year, or even once a 3. I mean, but people are literally eating this. I mean, how often do people eat? People eat like all day, every day. You know, which really, you know, is really a perfect segue into the ultimate. If there's anything, and I'm glad you mentioned this. You know, in the intro we talked about, have you heard of fasting? Because if there's nothing, regardless of what you eat, the practice of fasting is the OG, original, timeless, best form of medicine. It will always be that way. It's always been that way, and it'll always be that way. And again, as I opened and I talked about the body being self-healing, it's only when we create the condition, which is fasting. And so,
Hey, so when you say fasting, right?
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to do that, but I get a headache.
Yes, exactly. Because, what's happening? That's part of the healing.
Even while you drinking water, I still.
That's part of the healing. You gotta think. Well, this is what's happening when you know, because that's probably the most common symptom. I call it the hungry headache. When you stop eating, you miss, or let's say not even on, you know, you're not even fasting, but you miss a meal and you got that, you know, you feel that irritation on your scalp. What's happening is that every time we eat, whether it's raw fruits and vegetables or fried chicken and potato salad, your body is going to hold on to some of that. Because again, we're not meant to eat all the time. There is a time where, you know, it's almost like a fail-safe where if there happens to be a famine, your body builds reserves. So that if there is no food, your body now has an alternative fuel source. So every time we eat, the body is storing a little bit. It's not eliminating it all. And where it's storing it primarily is in the lymphatic system, in the lymph. So, you know, when you have, you know, people develop, you know, cancers, you know, like that. Again, they've never given their lymphatic, but the lymphatic system is, again, its primary job. I mean, it's the whole body. It's the lymphatic goes through the whole body because the blood goes through the whole body, and that's what the lymphatic system does, is cleanse the blood. Now, what happens when we stop eating? Lymphatic says, "Oh, I don't have to clean the blood now. I can start to really reverse all of this storage and throw it back into the bloodstream." So when the blood then travels on the brain, it causes irritation on the brain. And then when you eat, now the circulation has to go back down here because now you got to digest. See, when you free the body up from digestion, lymphatic says, "Okay, great, I'm gonna dump this out." But if had you kept with the fast, then because generally what happens is that, like, yeah, the first, second, or third day are going to be tough. Usually, especially if you've never fasted. So you're talking headache, you're talking maybe some nausea, you're talking maybe some chills.
It's like going through withdrawal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Food, bro.
Exactly.
Just get the headache.
Exactly.
Then I go eat.
You're
I get
exactly.
angry.
Exactly.
But it could be something.
Yeah, you're right. It's like going through the
It could be
withdrawal.
something's wrong with your mind, though.
Well, and that's the other thing too. No, real talk.
I'm serious.
No, real talk, because again, it's like, you know, what's the old adage? You are what you eat. So when you're eating certain foods for your whole life, that is not only what you are, it's what you think, it's what you feel, and you stop eating it, it's going to take over your mind. Because your mind is saying, like, look, you need to eat something. You need to, right. Like this fast, like you tripping. You know, so you know, going through that withdrawal, again, that first, second, or third day, then by that fourth day, it's like, wow, I feel your hunger goes away. There's like a sense of freedom, a sense of, you know, I mean, just a high. I call it the fastest high. And so, you know, it's really one of the best feelings ever that you can ever have. Because again, and then because what's happening now is now the body is using up all of the extra. You know, all of the reserves. And you know, when people have whether it's a life, you know, debilitating disease like cancer, or even like just a regular cold, you know, again, this is just excess. This is the body trying to manage waste. The body is just trying to, you know, whether it uses the lungs, whether it uses the extremities or any other internal organ, the body is really just trying to manage. You know, it's almost like the body is not able to eliminate as fast as you putting it in. So now it's got to create an uncomfortable condition. And it's really just trying to stop you from eating. So it can catch up. You
How long
know?
is it?
Huh?
How long is it?
Well, again, it's you know, obviously everyone is different. Most people can, if you've never fasted, I mean, you could probably go at least a month.
A month with no food?
A month with no food.
But
Or
water,
longer.
and when you're when you talk about fast, you're really talking about no food, and are you talking about
Well,
water?
well, there's and that's a great question. I mean, there's different types of fast. You know, obviously, what I provide is a juice fast. So, in you know, to really get technical, it's not a true fast because you are getting nutrition, but you're basically getting, you know, fruit and vegetable flavored water. That's how I like to look at it. It's still water. Because whether it's like water, because to me, that's superior than, let's say, bottled water. Because bottled water, it's like, okay, where did this water come from? How was this water treated? You know, I mean, how is it able to, like, if I bottle water at its source, that's like a living food. You know, a lot of these waters can sit in these bottles for years and nothing happened. That doesn't, you know, if I collected the rainwater, or really rainwater would be the best. You know, if we lived in a great environment, I mean, there are communities, you know, in the world today where where it rains almost every day, and they rely on the rainwater. They bathe in it, they drink it, and it's a much better tasting water than any bottled water.
Comes from the sky.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you, my name is Susan. Are you familiar with Kachava?
Cool.
Kachava, so you're not familiar with it.
No.
Kachava has all of the essential superfoods, nutrients, everything is in there. And even what you mentioned, the berry,
Yes.
they have all of those, the B vitamins, everything. Y'all should look it up.
You saw that on Instagram,
Kachava?
yeah.
No, I've been with it since it's been out. I think I saw it on YouTube initially, but now I have multiple sclerosis and I'm 65 and I'm healthy because of it. You see what I'm saying? And I can go just as well as any of you guys can.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So.
But you think you should look it up. I was thinking about it. I thought just look it up. Kachava, K-A-Chava,
Kachava. Okay.
Yes, and it is good, and I'm using that on the fast that I'm doing now. In the morning when I get up and before I go to bed, I probably eat a little bit, maybe one meal.
Yeah.
If I'm going to eat. Well,
Yeah.
that was before I started the fast.
Okay.
Today, so.
Yeah, because the thing that I want to make clear is that you got the juice fast, and then you have water fasting, and then you have dry fasting. Now, those are different levels. Dry fasting obviously being the most intense. I really don't even recommend water fasting. You know, primarily because I feel that juice fasting has an advantage, because it's like after you do the fast, you want to make change. And I feel that juice fasting, it will make because as you know, if you do dry fasting or water fasting, the cleansing is going to be more intense. So really, as we do less, the body works better with fasting. Okay, it's you know most people have this idea, especially in the natural health, and you know that they think that these different foods and substances result in healing, and there's only one healer. There's one disease and there's one healer. The disease is toxemia, and the healer is our own body. So when we're able to really shut down the digestive system, because while we're sick, our digestion doesn't work. So, most people, they're going to the hospital, they're putting them on pain meds, and then they're bringing them hospital food. So it's like they're just adding fuel. The medicine is allowing them to keep eating. I mean, how wicked is that? And again, it's not wicked from an intentional standpoint, but it's just wicked in the terms of people are just taking, years off their life. They're just adding to their sickness, and they don't even realize it. Yeah.
First of all, thanks for being here. My brother has an aggressive form of multiple sclerosis, so I definitely would love to talk a little more about that at another time. But many of the kids that we serve, and they come from food deserts. This vegan lifestyle costs. I have a family of 5 children myself, and I know what it costs them to go to Costco every month or a couple weeks. So are there any Whole Foods? I went to Whole Foods yesterday and I paid like $15 for lunch. Right? Can't do that every day.
Right.
So and they're very expensive.
Right.
Yes, organic is very expensive.
Right.
Moms, all these other places.
Yeah, it's set up that way on purpose. It's a war, and for our communities that where they just basically have liquor stores and junk food, and they obviously make that affordable. And fast food, just very affordable. It's very addictive. Again, it's no different than the Indian reservation where they make these things. It's just that what is the solution? What is the answer to that? I mean, again, it's a war, and it's. I mean, I don't have the answer. I think part of it, a big part of it, is understanding that this is intentional, and if there's anything that we can do on a policy level with politicians, maybe that is not the answer, but there's certainly things. I mean, this center, for example, I mean, we all have a power, and we all have an influence to make whatever change that we can. I mean, one of the things that I've even said, as far as myself, is that, being a health advocate, especially alternative, especially, what I've said about how they practice medicine in hospitals and things. I mean, that makes me a revolutionary. My social media was almost canceled, and it's even when I started, sharing my different viewpoints on the pandemic and things. Yeah, I mean, there was a mob that was out to totally cancel me. Shut my website down and all of that. So, when we start to, go against narratives and policies and things that are set up in a certain intentional way, it's war. It's war. And so I would just say, just keep fighting a good fight. And
so when Ray was asked that question, and I was kind of tracking you there, it's like, well, this type of eating is foreign, and it's also very expensive. And you say, hey, it's designed, it's set up that way for us to even be able to eat healthy. So, and what I'm getting from you, Kephra, is that, okay, well, you guys have this. You have this, this outreach program, and then maybe in some of our meals we can incorporate the raw food. We can have some of the stuff. We can have celery and carrots and just things around that kids can start to snack on. Because even though you may not make it an entire lifestyle, just having things that you can add and you can change. And then I also hear your point on that. It's no different. When I've talked to a couple of donors over the past, and this was before the pandemic, we were having a conversation, and they literally told me that their doctor will get into trouble if they communicate anything about health, and they talk about vitamins, for example. Right. And if they don't do anything, they can only communicate medication.
Exactly.
Otherwise, they'll get in trouble and they could get fired.
Right.
And so it's no different than my husband who had cancer. we were looking up doctors who said that they found a cure for cancer.
Right.
And these doctors found natural cures for cancer. And we looked to see, okay, well, where are they? And 10 of them were all dead.
Right.
And they died,
mysteriously.
Mysteriously, And
Right.
even when you look at, what's his name? Dr. Seeley. So you do see that there is this intentionality is that if you go against the narrative, that they will shut you down.
Like I said, it's a war.
Yeah, it is a war.
And we
So
have
now it's
to
just
be,
an
we have to be,
individual thing.
right, we have to be brave. Even one of my mentees even shared with me, he has a contact at NIH. And again, they've demonstrated, these doctors, probably most of these doctors, if they have a brain and they're really doing the work, they see like, okay, what they've been saying on the news and the narrative is not what we're seeing. But again, like what you said, they get silenced and it's tough. You can't, again, to become a whistleblower or to become, somebody who rogue and, again, these people may have families, but they got tough decision to make. They're not thinking of themselves as the revolutionary. You got to have a revolutionary mindset. You got to have a certain level of courage to again go against that narrative and of faith, and that you will be protected. And if not, look, this may be a sacrifice worth making.
And that's a personal decision. So it's no different with the food. It's a personal decision that we make if we're going to try to invest in, eating healthier, et cetera. Everything is personal. So,
right.
So if I'm personally changing and someone asks, let's just say with you, and some of you guys work with kids, if you're personally changing, then they may ask, why are you so healthy? And you say, well, or maybe you can incorporate something like that. Because part of it, and Jonathan was not here when I said this, part of it, when we bring Kephra, was to see if there's a way that we could, as we work in our community, like educate, some of our, how do you educate that? How do you reverse that, that mindset of the community, or how do you at least give them just some type of a step that can help them out? Because there is no message out there that is about true healthy eating. There's no message. The message is completely different.
Oh yeah.
And so, so it's just an individual thing of you, but that's an odd thing that you're 18-year-old, 17-year-old, and you actually had that kind of a mindset. That's not.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Again, I knew that this was my mission and purpose on life. No matter what I went to school for or what I was going to eventually find my way on this path, or it was going to find me, and so I feel a personal responsibility. And I know as long as I'm continuing to do this work, no, it's fine. It's fine. Everybody wants to.
Get those plates because you do different samples.
Yeah.
Hey, one of the things I was thinking about when I was talking, maybe having some fruit and stuff around. But I keep looking out here because I do see some green sprays, like the green sprays. Like you could do like a little urban garden, in one of these little areas. Maybe that's and maybe on the other side, so the basketball won't smash it all. But you know what I'm saying? Or if there's some land near here that that's what white folks do all the time. You like that. They made that.
They did that project in Columbia Heights on 14th Street. It had the two gardens next to each other. And that's how they introduced the students.
Absolutely.
The schools are all around those gardens. Yeah. And that was the initiative.
Yeah.
We're like a rooftop tank. What they got in town.
That'll work. Something that will, because we many years ago, we took a group of youngins from, it was a couple of different schools, but we took them to Upper Marlboro on a farm, and they gleaned sweet potatoes, right? And so then we partnered with an organization that was aging out, that worked with kids aging out of the foster care system. And then they came in, it's a culinary arts program. They came in and took some of the sweet potatoes, and they made like cookies and all these types of things. And then we gave it to the parents, as we gave them like little recipe books of things, different things, healthy things. That they, you know how we eat our sweet potatoes, but it was just kind of a different focus on how we could, you know, eat healthy on meager resources.
Right.
You know, ruin those things.
So you ain't supposed to have heat on that. Huh? You're supposed to have heat on that baby.
So Kephra, a few people have to go in just a minute.
Well, you know, the dehydrator does put a little heat on some things.
Okay.
You know, but it's like under like 100. It's about 110 degrees, and it's like, you know, whether it's but it's longer, but it's gentle, so it preserves the life in the food.
Where are you from, though, man?
Oh, I'm originally from upstate New York.
Okay, I thought New York. I heard a little New York in there.
Yeah.
Hold on, so you're 50, right?
I'll be 50 in July.
Dang.
Man.
Sorry about that, man.
Yeah, thank you.
You got me one of them boys right now.
So yeah, I was telling Daquan a couple days ago, I cut the dairy, right? Because I was watching Fox 5 one day, right? Just sitting at home watching Good Day DC.
Excuse me, so if you guys want to get a plate, because I know that we're going to eventually, the kids will be coming soon. If you guys want to get a plate to try something, open up the juice and put it in a cup. And then we're going to continue on. So that way other people can try it.
Yeah, I'll tell y'all what's on the menu.
Okay, tell us what's on the menu.
I like that keto room. That's keto.
Yeah, so
So I know, okay, so I'm going to let them.
Yeah, go ahead.
You guys, anybody want to try that? The raw foods back there?
What's the best drink here in terms of health? Tell me which one.
They all good, man. Yeah, they all good.
Question, what's up with your shirt? That means you got seafood on it?
No, this is an African art from Panama.
Oh, my sister-in-law from Panama. I have like 8 nieces and nephews. 12. 8 nieces and nephews, and then under them. This is African.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's African art.
Yeah, like basically in Panama they have a museum that is because they have okay, brother, I mean, all right. But basically there was you know, in terms of their history of Africans that were out there, actually dating back over 1,000 years ago. So
That's before the Sierra Leone, right? Africans were
Okay, I'll say the blessing. Thank you for this day. Excuse me, y'all. Let's quiet for a second. Thank you for this day. We just thank you and praise you. Your mercies are new every day. Bless us food to our bodies. We pray all these things in Yahushua's name. Amen. All right, here we go.
Yes, so you were saying?
I was saying that their slavery started, the African slavery started
Oh, that ale is so good.
again, like they had like a number of visual art, like portraits.
So he's going to tell us what everything is once everybody sits down.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Give us some art for you.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
10 of these, maybe. Wow. And I snatch
So
up.
Susan, you missed the beginning. I was telling him how I met him. He's the only raw food.
Okay.
I'm sure that was.
Okay.
So, and you know what? We had scheduled this about a week or so ago, and you weren't on our list. So, sorry about that. I didn't think about it. Hurry up and get y'all's plate so we can hear about the food.
My sister-in-law, all she eats, and that part of my family, they are 7-day Adventists. We've been doing this since the 70s.
They only eat raw food?
My sister. This is how we eat.
No, actually,
Only raw.
I think that's a good question. Maybe
They've been doing that since before people Whole Foods and we do gluten. That's where we go. And they've been there long before any of these Whole Foods and all
No,
that.
that's not
That's
true.
the 70s.
Right.
In fact, I'll just say what that you're asking is that, especially green leafy vegetables, they're pretty much mixed with anything. Other than like melons,
Because of my MS, I
I
can't
feel like
sugar,
melons is
iodine, crab,
melons,
cinnamon,
Right,
is its
things
own
like that.
category.
I know how to.
Citrus is its own category. But then you got like
I'm gonna get that from you.
or we call that the
Y'all
subacid.
Hebrews almost done getting your freaking plate.
Those can mix with like, all others, most other subacid foods like
What?
apples,
Hell, delicious. Actually, I love everything.
pears, and then you have sweet fruits like mango, banana, and those can mix with subacid. So, and then like I said, the greens they can mix pretty much with anything, especially when you're juicing.
Okay. Yeah, because I told you, I'm trying to say, man, I drive. I
Okay.
got late night.
So Kephra.
He just like,
All right, Terrell, sit down and be quiet. So Kephra, tell us what's on the menu. Hey guys, Kephra's going to tell us what's on the menu. So tell us what we're eating.
Okay, so you
I have everything.
right. So we got the buffalo cauliflower. We got a broccoli. I call it broccoli bites. That's got like now the buffalo cauliflower is it's got a buffalo sauce with almond butter dressing. The broccoli has a similar dressing, but it's more with tomato. And then we have adobo spiced wild rice. So it's wild rice. I don't have to cook it. It will actually, what happens is that it blooms. It's the only rice that will bloom with just, like basically I soak it and have it like heated at a low temperature, like 100 degrees. And it actually blooms, so you don't have to cook it. What else we got there? Ginger kale. And then the creamy kelp noodles. That's the
kelp noodles.
Yeah, those are kelp noodles. So yeah, so you can find kelp noodles. They you pretty much again it's like either usually it's either soaking. Nothing sprouted, but sprouting is another technique, and dehydrating. So between those things, and, I've obviously done lots of classes over the years showing you how to do these things.
So I have a question. The one thing that I had heard had learned when I was about raw food is that all the vitamins and nutrients are already in it, and the more that you cook the food, that's when you're taking out, and that's why you eat the raw food. How did you find a way to just make it flavorful? Like, is it something that you were taking classes? Like, if I said, okay, I want to figure out how to make stuff so I can enjoy the food, because there's some people that eat because they need to live, but then there's other people who just love food, and those who love food and they love flavor. How did you figure out to make all these different dishes that you have?
Well, as a culinary artist, it's just like any artist. It's like over time, you start and you try different things, and you just fine tune. And I look at it. I make certain analogies. One analogy I make is just like a musical band. Is you got voice, you got percussion, you got string, horn, and you take 5 different people, or you take 5 people over here and 5 people, and you give them the same instruments, but you can come up with 2 different sounds. And so with the chef, you can get one chef over here, the same ingredients as this chef over here, but so part of it is a balance, saying like, okay. And then the other part of it is just like when I teach my classes, my food classes, I don't really like to preach recipes, for example. Obviously it does whittle down into some of this and some of that and some of that. I really try to say, okay, what's the taste? What are you tasting? And it comes down to 5, essentially. 5 tastes in the mouth. That's it. It's just 5. So it's really just about balancing those 5. So I asked the question to you, what are those 5?
I can barely cook. So.
Sweet, salty.
Sweet, salty.
Okay.
And that's usually the first two that most people say because,
Savory.
well, what's
Yeah.
savory? You gotta be more specific.
Spicy.
Spice.
Okay, heat.
You need to eat.
So there's two more.
Sour.
Sour, and the last one, which is probably the least popular, but actually is the one that is the most flavored. That's the last one. What
Which
is
one?
it?
Oh.
Sweet.
He said sweet, sour, salty, hot.
Crunchy.
Cold.
I'll give you a hint, like that's like a lot of your herbs.
Natural.
Well, the herbs are more.
Got a natural flavor.
Bitter.
Oh,
Bitter.
Nobody want that.
Right, nobody
You
want
wasn't
that.
gonna say
But
that.
ironically enough, it's the bitter. Well, it's actually the bitter. Okay, sweet and sour. That's what we initially, taste like that. Like the part of the tongue. That's what first hits the tongue. But then the sour, hot, and bitter. I think bitter is in the middle, sour is on the sides, and heat is in the back. So that's those three. That's the flavor. Those are the flavor.
Wow.
And a balance of those, and especially the heat and the hot and the bitter. So it's like you gotta have like spices and heat. That's the secret.
So you're really actually teaching someone how to really understand cooking and putting things together,
Right.
and not necessarily here's a recipe and there
Right.
you go. Because
I
when
want
you have
you
a
to
recipe,
think
you're limited.
exactly right because I want you to think in a more creative way.
Right.
To say like, okay, what is this recipe or what is this ingredient bringing to this dish? Like, what am I tasting? Because a lot of times when I would make food, I would taste a lot of these things just individually to see, okay, what does this taste? What is it? What am I tasting here? What am I tasting here? And then because a lot of times these things can kind of get masked when they put them all together, especially if you're blending it into a dressing or a sauce or and it can kind of get lost. It's still in there, but you don't necessarily understand what it's bringing. So because when I was starting doing raw food, and I had like some high gourmet, real technical, real involved like ingredients I never heard of. So that was like part of my initial training because I'm learning. Okay, these are different herbs and different things that I've never used. Some of them I've never heard of before, and just sort of and a lot of times some of the things that I couldn't get. So it was like, and I wanted to follow. I wanted to, I was trying to be a perfectionist and trying to. So the thing is like when you understand it in terms of what it's bringing, then you may know what to substitute because you may not be able to get. And the other thing too is like, when I was trying to find a lot of the ingredients, like when I was just getting started, I couldn't get everything from one store.
Right.
Glut, what's the name of it?
Yeah, the glut.
Yeah, you can get everything. Yeah, I know
No, you couldn't get everything. I used to go to Rock. Well, at the time, it was just my organic market in Rockville. I used to go from Rockville to Whole Foods to the Glut to all of these different places, like on a treasure hunt, trying to find all the different ingredients.
Right.
Because I was like, man, this is asking for this is asking for that. So.
What's the five again? Sweet, salty, bitter, hot, and what's
sour?
Sour. Okay. I gotta do a message on that.
Yeah. And then the thing is like, nutritionally, you understand what those things are bringing too. So when you bringing in, because most even desserts will have all five.
Right.
Even desserts. The best part of a dessert is not the sweet. It's usually either the bitter or the sour.
I tell you,
I heard that from
Yeah,
watching
even the cherry pie.
baking shows. They have
Even the cherry pie, because there's gonna be usually if it's like something like cherry pie or something like that, it's gonna be a tart, or you should add a tart to it.
Yeah.
You know, right? So like maybe like the what do you call that? The zest. You're right. You add that zest to it, and it just it like, you know, because the sweet it just becomes too sweet. But the thing is like, you know, when we really think about it from a health perspective, when you start to get healthier, really the idea is to foods that are sweet to you should become too sweet.
Right.
See, we got to start eating more bitter and more hot and more sour foods.
Right.
So that's interesting because when I stopped eating sugar, like I don't eat sugar, and occasionally, you know, when the pandemic came, I was like, ooh, I haven't had ice cream in like 2 years. I haven't had no sugar in like whatever many years. And now I don't like a lot of everything. It is too sweet, and
Right.
so it's interesting. Like when I went and I got them some organic
I was just about to say that.
muffins, and they were certified organic. I go to this restaurant, and I got them some muffins, and they didn't like them. And my son and I, who are used to eating healthy, we just thought this was the best thing you ever had. Now, part of it could have been because I told them it was organic, and they're just like, oh, okay,
No.
you just said organic. Your kids like it, I'm just saying. But anyway, but yeah, so your body gets used to it, and your palate changes.
Right,
Right.
And you know, when your palate changes, that lets you know that you changed your body. Because now your body, because again, I say, you know, they say you are what you eat, but I say you eat what you are. So it's like you're craving the thing that your body is made of, and it's like you're gonna want to eat what you are, you know. So it's like when you start to change who you are, you're gonna change. Your cravings should change right along with that. So again, it's periodic fasting. It's really the fasting is the best and fastest way to sort of, you know, create those changes. You know, to say, okay, I'm going to totally not eat for a week. You know, and obviously there's a system and there's a method to the madness, because, you know, that was a lot of trial and error for me too, at least initially. And, you know, one of the things that I talk about is, I talk about that a lot, obviously, yeah.
Is there any seasonings you can't really use?
Seasonings?
Yeah.
Well, typically, it really just, that's a good question. Really, as far as seasonings, you know, you want to stay away from, like, the seasoned salts. You know, like, you want to create your own, not to say that salt is bad for you, or you shouldn't use salt, but create your own. Like, okay, see what's in it and recreate it, and like get it. You know, get these things either on their own. So one of the things that that's really big is obviously fresh herbs. You know, fresh herbs are where like a lot of the flavor. So when I'm making food, I'm using fresh cilantro. Like there's no reason to be using any of these dry flakes. You know, cilantro flakes, basil flakes, none of that. Like you want to be using fresh cilantro, fresh basil, fresh mint, fresh rosemary, oregano, all fresh, right? As far as more the dry spices, again, there's a few of them that I use that I like for example, cumin powder, allspice, turmeric, or even curry. But again, I'm very careful, even like say for the curry, because curry is a blend that has turmeric and other, other spices in there. So like I'll go to the Indian market, and get like some of my spices. I'll go to just different food markets to get like, basically like, the best version of these things. and then therefore, be able to, but like a lot of these, like, I mean, I was like, even, I just can remember, like my mother, God bless her, she passed on some years ago, but it was pretty much just seasoned salt. Like, it was like,
Everybody got seasoned salt.
Right, seasoned salt. It was just like,
unless you're Jamaican.
Right. So, unless when you grow up in a place like Jamaica, different places like that, right? They go to the yard and get get whatever's out growing, or it's just a lot more. It's just a stronger connection with nature and what's more natural versus like what's commercially produced in some manufacturing plant. That's doing these things that because a lot of these things, I mean, we crave salt, we crave sugar, we crave fat. I say these things are not evil as people want. We just need them in the right form. And then again, you need to because the thing is too is that we want to get into one big thing that a lot of people talk about, intermittent fasting. It really is just about really just taming your appetite, eating less. As children eating, at least 3 times a day with snacks. People, as we grow up and mature, people still follow. I say we still eating like children. We need to grow up in our not just our not just our appetites, but the way we eat. So typically, like food like this, I'll eat. I won't eat this every day. I'll eat, but if I'm eating, I'm only going to eat this once a day. So I'm sure if y'all have had enough, you're probably not going to be hungry for dinner. Yeah. Like this food will hold you.
So are you eating like
because it's nutritionally dense.
all of these together like this?
Yeah, I'll eat like I'll basically be on juice for the whole day. Right, that'll just carry me through the day, and then like maybe around 2, 3, 4, maybe no later than 6, I'll have my meal, and then that'll be it. And that'll carry me all the way into the next day. I go to sleep pretty late. Yeah.
And you still be alright?
Getting all into it, personalized?
No.
No, that's a good question.
That's what gives me, man.
I really need to go to bed earlier. That's one of the things I struggle with.
Me too.
Yeah.
So can you have any snacks? Like what kind of healthy snacks do you eat or none?
Well, it's just fruit, juice and fruit. Those are my snacks. Just juice.
Is this certain fruit that you should stay away from? Because it's like every time I'm reading into something, it's like, oh, you shouldn't eat this, or you shouldn't eat that, or this fruit is bad, or this fruit is good. So it's just like eat whatever. It's too confusing. That's why I use
My snacks. Can I just address that, please? Because I have, and that sugar is not good for people with that immune system problem. So I keep blackberries and blueberries, and that's my snack at night. That's all I do. The strawberries too, and raspberries.
Yeah.
Mostly blackberries and
Susan's talking about a condition, but you're somebody who has eaten a lot of fruit, and it doesn't affect you because you're not dealing with a particular condition.
Well, it's all about balance.
Okay.
So if we look at like some of the sweeter fruits, right? Because you got like he asked a great question as far as like food combining. That's an excellent question, but it really speaks to, this is really all really kind of the same thing because like berries, they got sugar. It's just balanced. Okay, and the thing is that again, it's not necessarily the sugar. See, the sugar that again you want to, put the emphasis like is the bread, the rice, the potatoes, the starches. Those are the sugars. Because what? First of all, they cook, and they don't have water. And those are the most addictive, that is the most addictive form of sugar. Those are the sugar that is causing and creating diabetes. And you can't blame bananas and some of the higher, sweeter fruits like watermelon and those fruits say, oh, I can't eat those fruits, but then your condition is created from overeating bread and pasta and sugars that spike the blood sugar higher than any fruit could ever.
So we don't need to stress about fruit, like I can't.
No, absolutely not. I mean, again, we want to demonize again the bananas and the mangoes and those things when those are not why you got diabetes. Those are not why you may be overweight.
Right.
It's the starches, and again, it's the starches, especially for the vegans.
So it's the starches in the processed foods.
Well, those are all processed.
Right. Okay. Right.
Because there are even for the starch, for example, there are healthier forms of starch. Like our squash family. Squashes are fruits. Whether it's zucchini, pumpkin, plantain, banana. Okra is, okra you could say is a starch. Our cruciferous vegetables, cauliflower, broccoli, those are starches. But again, they have water. So now, and they got enzymes, they got life.
Hey, let me ask you a question. When they concentrate something, right? Like when you get a juice like 100% juice, you got to turn on the back, and it says concentrate.
It's processed. It's processed.
That's
it's
what concentrate means?
Yeah, it's processed.
Terrell?
Yeah, I'm just double checking.
Remember?
Me and Walk, we was in the car because I looked it up and said they extract the water out of it.
Yeah, look. I mean, you have to imagine these things again. They're taking, and that's one of the things. Even as a chef, and when I have my restaurant, I'm taking food as nature produces it. Like one of my favorite times of the year is the spring, summer, fall because I can then go to the farmer's market. Not since the pandemic, but before that time, I would try to at least source a lot of my stuff from the farmer's market. To me, that's even better than organic. Because I ain't even trusting your labeling and all that stuff. I trust the farmer who maybe 10 miles down the road in this community, that's growing the green leafy vegetables that picked it either that morning or the day before. So the thing is like you should be it is more work, but and that's one way even to your earlier question as far as like the cost, because as we start even start growing our own food, like we got to start thinking like that as the revolution is like, look, I got this little piece of land right here, or I can create this raised bed and start growing my vegetables. I got like 4 fruit trees behind my house that I planted. It's like 2 fig trees and 2 persimmon trees. So at least for a nice little month when they produce, I got food.
So Kephra,
right? That I ain't gotta go and spend $10 at Whole Foods.
So we need to we need to wrap this up. What would be your final thoughts that you can share with us, in just a couple of minutes? And then do you continue to, or do you plan on having cooking classes?
Oh, it's a great question. Well, again, I just want to...
Or preparation classes.
Yeah, I just want to, again, thank you for this opportunity, and thank y'all for really being a great audience and great questions. Just to summarize, and my final thoughts is that, we're all responsible on some level, and we all have a power, not just to ourselves, but our families and our communities, and we can all affect change. And we can, continue to, even after this, brainstorm within yourself and think about the ways that we can all make change, and we can all, produce a better self, to produce a better, have a family, community, etc. This has really been inspiring for me to be able to come and share, and this is the change that I hope to help create within this community. So again, I'm just thankful, and I think that is good. I'll continue to, answer some questions. I don't know what time it is.
Go ahead.
I do have to get going
Look
soon.
at all your books in your trunk. Like, what
Oh, and also the last thing I want to say, I do have, I wrote this book. I published it in 2012. Actually, about 10 years ago. Man, time goes, and it actually just talks about detoxification. We got the coconut here, so most of those juices, if not all of them, have coconut water. That's the only water that I've been drinking for a long time. So there's a whole science to that, and I get into it.
So you don't drink any water?
No, I don't
Water,
drink
bottled water.
I don't drink bottled water.
Okay. So will you drink rainwater?
I will drink rainwater.
Okay.
Yeah.
Filter.
Yeah, I will drink rainwater. Well, if I'm in if I'm in the right situation. I remember the last time. This was some years ago. I was in Jamaica. We were in these caves, and it was connected to a water source that was literally just coming out of the earth. So they had gone down I think over 200 feet. There was still no bottom. So this was literally feeding the community this water, and this water was fresh water. And this water was going into the caves. We were in the caves, and I was like, drink. I was drinking the water, and it was just delicious. Moments like that. If I find myself in a situation like that, I drink water. But typically, I trust the water from the coconut.
Okay.
And I brought a coconut. So yeah.
So that's what
So I'll go ahead. Yeah, I'll go ahead and demo.
Oh, okay. I see. You want to do it right here?
Yeah, right now. I'll clean that up.
We gotta make this right here.
But I won't be sharing it. I'll be drinking this.
Nancy? There you go, Kephra. We would have just done that in the kitchen. And you just drink it right out there, just like that, the coconut. Put the lime in the coconut.
It's my butcher.
Literally. And that's a machete?
Yeah.
Hurt myself.
Who wants some?
I would be so scared to hurt
We're gonna
myself.
take him on Good Hope Road today.
Oh man, who
Oh
wants
my
some?
goodness.
Can't have one meal today.
So Kephra, I want to say thank you so much. I appreciate it. For those of you who are not going to take carry-on, I don't care what y'all do, that I will be taking whatever's left over home with me. I'll be eating that for the next couple of days.
Hey, can I get one of them books?
Yeah.
And so how much are the books?
$10.
Okay, so just get what you want, and then the house will just cover that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want me to,
So if anybody wants to
sign it.
Thank you. I like to have you sign it.
Man, I got
Y'all
coke.
finish next year?